processing, which of course I have the privilege to have been working on for about 35 years. I believe, and I believe strongly, that the technology, the basic principles of the technologies can be applied across the board. And definitely we need to be thinking about those.
Thank you very much, Prof. So we have heard from Professor Michael Ngadi, from the Faculty of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences, McGill University in Montreal, Canada. Shall we put our hands together for him, since he will be going off? Prof, we are very grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so with that, we will move on to the second online presentation. And I guess Dr. Int'L, who is the Vice Chancellor, Vasantrio Mike Maratwada, please forgive me for that. I guess it's in India, and he is ready to give his presentation similarly to what Farmer Kolawole also presented, and this is also talking about the agricultural value chain and food security. So if Dr. Int'L is ready, please go ahead with your presentation. And please, you also have 10 minutes. Yeah, please go ahead if you can hear us. Well, he's gone off. Okay, then in that case, then we would have the physical presentation by Professor Linus Opara. PowerPoint, yes, okay. He is at the Stellenbosch University in South Africa. And his presentation is on renewable energy and energy solutions for rural farming communities. I think that will be a very interesting one. So, please, you can have the podium. And those, please, can you load his slides? Okay, it's already loaded. Yeah, please go there. Can go there.
Good afternoon, colleagues.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, engineers. It's like you're sleeping. Are you hungry?
We just have.
I think our duty is to make our country food secure. And also it's our duty to make our country energy secure. And we also have a responsibility as engineers to tackle any of those grand challenges that face humanity. We have done it in the past. And so when we talk about climate change, I don't think there's any other profession that is better positioned to help humanity to tackle those. Think about the aeroplanes we fly. Think about automation. Think about mechanics and the related engineering. Think about the sound system in this room. Think about the lighting. History shows that one profession that we know that rises to these grand challenges is none but other than engineers. And so what I want to share with you for the few minutes that are left for me is to draw some historical perspective as the type of challenges we face today, and to say something that is unique about what we call the rural farming community, where most of us came from. And also to ask ourselves, what do we need to do differently in order to begin to transform that rural farming community to become a more modern, viable community? The history is that when we talk about agriculture and farming, we normally associate it with rural. And that is true, because that's where most of the land is. But the sad thing about it is also where we have the sickest among us. It's also where we have the poorest among us, and so on and so forth. So it's a grand challenge, just as climate change is a grand challenge. Next slide, please. And so we have this nexus about food security, energy security, climate change, all wrapped around the rural communities. These grand challenges are not unique to the rural environment. It's also a problem in the big cities. A couple of weeks ago, I gave a keynote here in Abuja, and I challenged my colleagues that hunger has come to the city. There is hunger in Abuja. There's hunger in Lagos. There's hunger in Ibadan. It's no longer a rural problem. That means all of us have a stake in it. If you are not directly affected, perhaps you have somebody who is affected by any of this. But the question is, engineers, what do we do? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And so, we know this. These are very, very clear evidence. It's not unique to Nigeria. It's not unique to Africa. That there is a linear relationship between energy availability and its socio-economic development and well-being of humans. We agree with that, right? Very linear relationship. Look at those countries where our young men and women are applying for visas to go to. Look at where they are. So it's not by chance that they are energy secure. And most of them are also food secure. So when you put all of them together, and considering that we also have the same challenge of climate change, it's not unique to us. But they're still perhaps in a better position to address the problem of climate change because their stomach is full. There's energy security. And so they can think properly and innovate in order to solve the problem of climate change. So this graph is just to begin to indicate to us what we must do. We need to begin to think about how we can shift Nigeria on that map and begin to move in that vertical linear line. On the right-hand side also, you can see that they talk about Africa as a dark continent. Well, it's not just an euphemism. It's not just literal. Look at the statistics there. We are still relying on firewood, the things that we know that pollute the environment more by cutting them down. So there must be better ways that we can provide sustainable energy in our rural communities in particular. And I'm going to challenge us why that is more important. Next one, please. And so, we always talk about sustainable development goals. Look at the issue of energy right in the middle. Whether you are going up in terms of food security, or you are talking about education, or you are talking about manufacturing, there is nothing you can do without energy. So energy, to me, is the foundation. If you're talking about food security and you're not talking about energy security, there is a problem. Because we know that energy is required the whole value chain, from production all the way to consumption. So whatever we are discussing about food security, energy security must be part of the conversation. So we all agree on that. Next one, please. This is the same information here. Next one, please. So I say that we are a very, very energy-hungry country. We're not just hungry for food, we're also hungry for energy. And look at our map of Africa. Look at the red spots. Hot zone. It's like a war zone when we talk about food security. You can also expand that and begin to zoom into our own country in particular. You see that we are not better off in Nigeria. You hear the newspapers, you watch the television, you see the headlines. And those are real. But what makes it even more challenging for engineers...
Yes, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. What makes it more challenging for engineers is no longer just about production. We have now to think about the effects of climate change. That even when you put the best engineering technologies to produce, one flood can come and straight away and wipe it away. So the design of irrigation systems and dams that will allow agriculture and good life in rural economics becomes very important. Next one, please. Next one. Next one, please. Let's go very quickly so I can wrap up here. And so the issue of investment in agricultural sector becomes very, very important. If we want the rural areas to produce the food we want, then we have to put our money where the mouth is. And that is in our rural areas. Next one, please. Next one. These are just quick things here. So we are running out of time. The brightest of us, among all of us, Africans, are telling us we are running out of time. So there is something about rural environment we have to do something. We have neglected it for too long. Agricultural engineers recognized this more than 100 years ago. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. I just want to go quickly. So we must do something.
Sure.
And that is about power in the rural sector. Next slide, please. Just want to finish. Next slide, please. Just want to drive something. Next slide. So, what is the power? Why do we need it in the rural areas? The number of active people who can produce the food we eat are decreasing, and people are getting older. The solution lies in more power, efficient power, sustainable power. But that power has to also lock in with knowledge so that we can produce food more efficiently in a more sustainable manner. Next slide, please. So those pictures of a woman, my mother and my grandmother carrying a baby at the back and with a cut and hoe and cutlass must be banished to the zoo. This is very, very important, and only engineers can do that. Next one, please. And so, in terms of energy, just think about cassava value chain. How can we derive these values from cassava, which is our dominant crop, without energy? It's impossible. So energy is important. Next one, please. Just going to finish very quickly. Next one. Look at the typical cassava processing that is still happening in our rural areas. Look at the source of energy. Look at it. This looks like 200 years ago. And we are the brightest engineers in the world and the best country in the world. And we are still feeding ourselves this way. The only difference between this and the modern system of production is the type of energy source and the quality of the energy. Next slide, please. So, agricultural engineers recognized this many years back. Look at in 1907, look at what agricultural engineers were called. They were called rural engineers. So we must go back to the rural communities, all agricultural engineers here, to begin to address the challenges. Those challenges are still there. We don't have to call it rural engineering anymore, but our challenges are still very rural. Next slide, please.
1 minute.
Thank you. Look at, I'm taking this example of the American Society of Agri-Engineers to show us what are the issues we should be addressing in terms of the rural economy. Look at, historically, from 1907 to 2023. There is no mandate of the technical divisions of the American Society of Agri-Engineers that doesn't have energy as part of the important areas. So we need to elevate the role of energy in transforming agriculture and food system. Next slide, I'm going to finish off now. And then finally, we did a study across the African continent, and we asked what are those issues that engineers should be working on in terms of agriculture and rural environment. A survey across the various countries in the African continent. Look at one of the key things that came up here. The question is, how do we ensure energy security for agriculture and rural development? That is the question we should be addressing in this conference among all engineers. And finally, last slide, please. So the future is here with us. It is no longer theory. All the clean forms of energy are available. We just have to work out the financing mechanisms. We have to find out the delivery mechanisms. And we have to think about local development and manufacturing so that these technologies can actually be manufactured in Nigeria and not just straight importation. Engineers must be involved in this process. It is not just about the consumption of energy. It is also about the production of energy. I want to thank all of you for sharing these moments with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. This is a call to action. Ready. Okay, I understand the online presentation is ready. Since you are here, I will save my questions. And please write down the questions, like I said earlier on, for both the first and the third speakers. Whilst we wait for the last speaker, we have barely 10 minutes to go. So if the last speaker is ready, you can please go ahead and start your presentation. Dr. Mani.
Lodge.
Yes.
So whilst we wait, our last speaker has said that, is it ready? Yeah? Oh, please hold on. We cannot hear you.
Now,
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
great. So, first of all, I, extend greetings from India to all the participants and my Nigerian friends, ladies and gentlemen, the chair, co-chair, and all dear delegates. I wanted to be there, but due to some pressing work here in India, I could not come. And I attended, last time, I think in 2018, and met my friends there. But nevertheless, I got opportunity to join online, and I will just share the India's experience on the subject concerned. And so, as time is, as I have been said, time is short, so I will use slides.
And please, you have 10 minutes.
Slides are visible.
Yeah, we can see. And you have 10 minutes, please.
Hello.
I say you have 10 minutes. The slides. Yeah, we can see
May
your
I know
slides.
these slides are visible and my voice is clear?
Yes, please go ahead. We can see.
Okay. So, agricultural value chain and food security experience from India. So, my dear friends, Indian agriculture has seen a sea change. The country, which was food scarce till 1950, transformed itself into food shortage by 1960, food sufficient by 2000, and food secured nation by 2010, and food surplus nation beyond 2010. If you see the graph, that in 1950 we were just producing 50 million ton of food grain, my dear friends, from the land 141 million hectare. The arable land of India was 141 million hectare. We were producing 50 million ton, and now we are producing 342 million ton of food grain and 353 million ton of fruits and vegetables. Another simple example I give, when we were just 40 CR people, 40 crore people in India, we were food scarce, and now we are 141 crore people, and we are food surplus. So that is what India's experience is, and that's what we want, that world should learn from our experiences. If we see the food grain production, and if you compare, as I mentioned, that from independence, what type, how many times increase has been there. So in food grain, it is, old data 314, now it is almost more than 6.5 times, vegetable more than 13 times, milk production more than 12 times, egg production more than 68.8 times, fish production 17.8 times, and so on. But you see, net sown area at that time was 130, and now it is 140. So now just 1.1 times increase in food production in arable land. And then if you see, because of we could increase the grass sown area from 150 to 198, 1.3 times, but productivity we have increased a lot. So because of the productivity increase, we could produce multiple times food, grain, vegetable, milk, etc. from the same land. So we call it, my dear friends, rainbow revolution. For food, green revolution; for milk, white revolution; for fish, blue revolution; for oil, yellow revolution; for horticulture and honey, golden revolution; for egg, silver revolution; and coffee, brown revolution; and finally wool, grey revolution. And that's what we call it, rainbow revolution in Indian agriculture. This all happened because of high yield varieties. That was the major basically shift from conventional varieties to high yielding varieties. That was one major traction. The second major traction was mechanization. And last time when I visited Nigeria, I made presentation. Then I said, and my friends from Nigeria were agreed that India developed its own mechanization and automation policy. We used to produce just 880 tractors. We started in 1961. And now we are producing more than 1 million tractors every year. And many tractor companies of India have presence in more than 100 countries, and Africa whole being good friend, agricultural machinery, mechanization experience of India can be basically an example for Africa. A lot many students and we have trained here in India, and the message is very loud and clear that mechanization, we should have, appropriate kind of mechanization, not that very high horsepower tractor we should bring. And so our tractors, mostly 35 horsepower, are, not 37.5 kilowatt horsepower tractors are more popular in India on Indian farms. And my dear friends, I want to just share that India also faces this problem of land holding. 90% farmers of India are small and marginal, means less than 2 hectare farm. So similar maybe situation in many of the African countries also, and that's why appropriate mechanization was the need of our. Coming to food security and agriculture value chain, the topic which was assigned to me, our experience is that we have, first thing we tried, that there should be increase in production, quality food production, both means food grain, then pulses, then oil seed, fruit and vegetables, all in all area. And our things should reach to all. Then we had a very strong public distribution system, and the National Food Security Act, NFSA, and National Food Security Act said that all should get food, and to provide us population, we ensure access to food grains at affordable prices. That was the philosophy. So nobody should sleep without food. The PDS encountered their inefficiencies also. Sometimes target group is not benefited, but we are trying to overcome that. But what we try that we should bring innovation in value chain.
Please,
so
you
all
have...
technological innovation in agri-tech and logistics have been used in agricultural value chain. So digital platforms for farm management, precision farm techniques using blockchain for improved traceability are reshaping how agriculture operates in India. Advancement in cold chain infrastructure, that has been a very, very big investment has been. Yeah.
You have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes, please.
Yes.
Please begin to round up.
All right. Then rule of Indian. Okay. Indian farmers have played a very important role. Then, but there are challenges like post-harvest losses, climate change and sustainability, market integration and global value chains, and policy implementation gaps. You all understand these are global phenomena, and India also faces these phenomena. So, the implementing food security measures in India, government has, this is very important one, that we have as of July 2024, the central pool holds 608.7 lakh metric tons of food grain. That's what buffer B is. So you can say that 60.87 million metric tons of food grain, significantly exceeding the stocking norm of 41.12 million metric tons. So for this, now new schemes have been implemented in our country, like National Food Security Act, then Pradhan Mantri and PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, that means for poor farmers, poor people. PM Poshan, that means for food, nutrient security. Then Antodaya Anna Yojana, this is providing food to poor. Fortification of rice in India, rice and biofortification has been a big one. So we are developing varieties also, and this also.
Thank you very much.
On price stability and affordability.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Mani.
And then in
Hello.
India, there have been achievements.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Remarkable achievements in food security.
I'm sorry, we'll have to stop you
here. We were not food deficit, but now we are first or second in all different areas.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, I think that we have gotten the direction of your presentation.
Then nations for other developing countries, we spend.
Yeah, we understand.
Targeted government measures and the integration of smallholding farmers, and all these strategies that if we combined, then focus on sustainability and climate resilience can help other nations in the global south address their own food security challenges. So what I conclude.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ndramani.
India has seen success.
Please.
Efficient food distribution.
Please, Dr. Ndramani, we thank you for your presentation. Please, can we go on to...
With the recommendation, investment in infrastructure.
Yes, we have heard you. We'll make the slides available to all members of the NSC. But then I think that what you have done is to tell us that with the experience from in India, it is possible that with targeted automation or mechanization, we should be able to increase the production of food, which you talked about in terms of having food surplus in vegetables, milk, fish, and the fact that we have smallholders just like we have in Africa. And if they have been able to do it in India, then we are also able to do so. And you are going to give us what should be done. But then our time is up, and therefore we would like to take the opportunity to thank you, Farmer. I like your name so much. Farmer Kolabole. And please, if you have any questions, you can ask them whilst they are there. And then Professor Lionel Sopara, especially when you put energy at the center. He says everything revolves around energy. But then there's one question which I guess you have to answer. So we are talking about power. This is a question from the audience. Maybe you can tell us where that source of power is supposed to come from. And then we will close.
Thank you. Do I go ahead?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you very much. And so the issue is, if we say energy is at the center of everything we do, and we need power in the rural areas, which power? And who will pay for this power? Where will it come from? I think what we should advocate for is a mix of energy. The days are gone when we should have something completely different for rural areas and something different from the cities. The hunger that used to be in the rural areas is now migrating to the cities. So if you have power in the cities and you are hungry, I think you better move that power back to the rural areas where it can actually put more into production. So the rural areas must have grid. It must have that area. It's not only for the cities. However, we can also harness recent developments which can give us small units of power. For example, solar, at the family level, at the small industry level, so that we can have modular systems, so that when we have communities that are very productive, we can target them and provide the energy they need to be more productive.
Thank you.
I think this is very, very important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we've had on the first plenary session of today's conference, and we've been talking about sustainable energy solutions to food security and climate change. And our speakers have linked the agricultural value chain and food security, looking at it from various angles. We've just heard from Professor Opara talking about the fact that renewable energy and energy solutions they are ways in which we can look at the issue of food security. Farmer Kolabole, we're sorry we couldn't, but then, yours was very, very clear because you have practicalized it. It is not about what you will do. You have shown us what you have done and what you are doing. So when the other person was talking about, I think that yes, you showed us the way in which we produce gari. You are already doing, or manufactured something or an equipment for the production of gari, and Nigeria and the world, thank you very much. And then we also heard from Professor Michael Ngadi about the innovations and technologies. I think we spent a lot of time, and we realized that it is not just about the traditional ways of doing this. All the emerging technologies, AI, blockchain, and just anything that you can think about in the Internet of Things can be applied to agriculture. So agriculture is no more cutlass and hoe, but then we are lifting it to another level and looking at the entire value chain. So with this, we would like to say thank you very much to both our online presenters and our physical presenters. Thank you. Very, very good. Okay.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we have one panel yet, and that is the panel of discussants that will come and discuss generally on the theme. And while that is going on, we want to encourage all the poster presenters to be at their poster because judges are near the poster. We want to run it concurrently now. Poster presenters, please go out and be by the side of your posters to discuss with the people that are within the area looking at your posters to ask you questions, and judges will be in their midst. They don't need to identify themselves. But the next panel, we have the speakers as Engineer Dr. A.R. Kamal. Kamal is Executive Director of National Center for Agricultural Mechanization. Engineer Dr. Kamal will be on agricultural mechanization technologies for enhanced productivity. You are welcome, sir. The next is Professor Latif Oladimeji Sani. Professor Sani is Executive Director, Nigerian Stored Product Research Institute, NSPRI. Prof, you are welcome. You are welcome, sir. The third person is Awan Ali Hassan, the Managing Director and CEO of Bank of Agriculture, BOA. He will be talking on food transportation, handling, and distribution system. Awan, please, or his representative. The next person is Engineer Dele Abioye. Engineer Abioye is the Managing Director of Bua Foods. Bua Food is a subsidiary of Bua's conglomerate. And he will be talking about agricultural machinery for enhanced productivity and efficiency. We have also Engineer Deadly D. Theo, President, Engineering Society of Liberia. The Engineering Society of Liberia will give us from the Liberian experience of agricultural mechanization, machinery enhanced productivity and efficiency. Yeah, you are welcome. Please, a round of applause for him, please. Moderating this session is Engineer Professor Christopher O. Akimbile, a fellow of Nigerian Society of Engineers. Professor Akimbile, you are welcome. And also, co-moderating is Engineer Florence Ilaka, MNSC. You are welcome. We are still waiting on Managing Director of Bua Foods.
Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I hope you had a good time with the last plenary session. We are moving on, and of course, one of the attributes of an engineer is brevity. So we'll be very brief with this session. I just want your attention, and I want us to also note the questions and contributions that may actually help us moving us forward. Okay. All right, all right. And I want to start by telling us that there are 4 pillars of food security. One is access, the other is availability, the third is utilization, and the last one is stability. And the number 2 goal of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations is to end hunger by the year 2030, which is just about 6 years from now. Of course, all indices does not indicate that that goal could be achieved by 2030. And in order to achieve this, the following things should be put in place, which are these distinguished personalities will be speaking on. 1, to increase the land under cultivation through mechanization. Second is to perfect agricultural value chain, especially from cultivation to harvest, to handling, to post-harvest, to packaging, and of course, ultimately to the consumers. 3, to increase the role of agric machinery for sustainable and optimum production. 4, for considerable reduction in on-field and post-harvest losses. And finally, dealing with the issues associated with climate change, adaptation, and mitigation strategies. So doing justice to these are these very eminently qualified personalities that have been invited. And I'd like to call on the Executive Director of National Center for Agricultural Mechanization in CAM, Engineer Dr. Abdul Ghaffar Rashid Kamal, FNSC, to give his talk. Of course, the stage has been set. You have just 10 minutes, and please, let's just speak briefly to the point so that people can get the point that you are going to be making to us. Agricultural mechanization technologies for enhanced productivity and efficiency. Can we please put our hands together as I welcome Engineer Dr. Kamal to give us his paper. You're welcome, sir. I think you can talk from here.
Okay. The President, Nigerian Society of Engineers, distinguished participants and eminent engineers here present. My name is Kamal Abdul Ghaffar. I'm happy that the previous speakers talked and emphasized on appropriate mechanization technology for adoption in Nigeria, as well as the need for us to establish local industry. And that's basically what we'll be looking at in this presentation. By way of introduction, INCAM is a research and development agency under the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, and with the core mandate to develop and promote agricultural mechanization technologies for the transformation of Nigerian agriculture. The center looks at need-based and homegrown mechanization technologies as against imported agricultural mechanization technologies, because we believe that sustainable mechanization in Nigeria can best be achieved through the establishment of local industries. And that is why we have made our vision to encourage the development of homegrown mechanization technology in order to reduce, if not eliminate completely, importation of agricultural mechanization technologies. The center is expected to carry out transition research as against basic research that we find in the universities. We are to take up those technologies on the shelf and assess their suitability for adoption after evaluation and testing and improvement, and ensure that they get to the end users. So that is the essence for setting up the center. So we bring into focus these technologies that are laying on the shelf in various universities and other research institutes. And we collaborate with private agencies too, bodies as it may be, in order to ensure that we develop together and promote agricultural mechanization technologies in the country. Now, over the years, we have developed arrays of agricultural equipment and machines that cut across various crop value chains, including for production as well as post-harvest processing, including renewable energy as well, looking at the climate change effect that we are facing in the world today. And we also target not only small-scale farmers, but medium and large-scale farmers as well. And periodically, we try to improve the efficiencies and performances of our machines in order to ensure it meets international standard and also that it's suitable and gives for us to get patronage by the end users. So how do we promote our technologies? This we do by organizing training and workshops. So we train in the areas of machinery fabrication, tractor operation, and maintenance, as well as in integrated farming technologies and processing techniques too. So through this training, by training participants across the country, we are able to create that ripple effect which leads to commercialization of these locally and indigenously developed technologies. And one important mandate of the center is also to test, certify, and standardize all agricultural machine and equipment in use in Nigeria, especially tractors. So we are using this medium also to advocate to the government, all tiers of government, federal and state, as well as importers of agricultural machines and equipment, especially tractors, to have recourse to income in selecting and bringing in tractors for use in the country. This is to safeguard the end users, who are the farmers, from importing inferior agricultural machines and equipment into the country. Once it passes through the Center for Testing and Certification, we'll be in the position to advise you on the best tractor and other agricultural equipment that will be most suitable for use in Nigeria. So as you can see, some of our technologies, they are all locally produced, appropriate technologies for Nigeria, and I can assure you that we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but because what is there that is not available today. But we target domestication of this equipment, whether imported or even produced in Nigeria, for standardization. And this forum is also another way of promoting our technologies. So you can see what we do, and if you have interest in these technologies for your farm, you can approach us, and we'll be ready to be at your service anytime and any day. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. A.R. Kamal, FNSC, for that very brief presentation. Please, if you have questions, you can please pick onto any of the ushers. They will give you a piece of paper. You put them there, and then we will take them from here to save our time. Of course, Dr. Kamal took us through the entire activities of NCAM, and the essential thing is to encourage homegrown technologies as against the imported technologies. He also tried to talk about facilitating the effectiveness of homegrown marriage. I mean, town and gown marriage between the industry, the university, to be able to solve some of the myriads of problems with every Nigerian agricultural system, and also to actually promote the use of small, medium, and large-scale tech development for technologies. Also training in machinery fabrications, maintenance, and what have you. And then they concluded by inviting potential partners and end users to embrace homegrown technologies for sustainable food security. And I think that essentially is very key and critical, to embracing globalization, thinking globally, but having to localize what we have brought to ensure that we actually start on a good footing as far as our food security and climate change is important. Once again, can you please put your hands together for Dr. Kamal for that very wonderful presentation.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, members of the Nigerian Society. So, in the last plenary session, Dr. Indira Modi talked about one of the challenges still facing India, which is the post-harvest losses. So, this is a subject that we all feel in the market, when you see prices fluctuating depending on how the products are available in the market. So to give us the Nigerian, to explain to us how this is being managed in Nigeria, we have Professor Lateef Oladimeji Sani, Executive Director, Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute, ably represented by Dr. Mike Omodara. So please, the mic is yours now. I've been told that we have, we have to round up in another 30 minutes. So please, if you can still keep to 10 minutes as Professor Christopher already requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am standing in for Professor Lateef Oladimeji Sani, the Executive Director of the Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute. And I will be speaking to you about what the nature of post-harvest losses is in Nigeria and our efforts at controlling post-harvest losses of food. The Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute was established in 1948 as West African Stored Produce Research Unit. And this was done by the colonial masters. And if you want to know why do they have to do that, you will understand that during the colonial era, the colonial masters carried agricultural produce from the West Coast to the UK. And after a while, they discovered serious pest infestation, and they had to decide to go to the root cause of the problem. And that was why they set up a survey, and the survey was what led to the establishment of the West Africa Stored Products Research Unit. And the intention was that if they can actually manage the pest infestation from the west coast of Africa, then they wouldn't have the problem with them over there in the UK. After independence, that name changed to the Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute. So what do we do in NISPRI? Our mandate is that we are saddled with responsibility of conducting research on mitigating post-harvest food losses. And when we talk about food losses, it has to be in quantity and quality. Now, every food that is produced and consumed in Nigeria, it is our mandate to come up with appropriate technologies to reduce post-harvest food losses in them. How do we manage this? The food are divided into two categories. Is either you are dealing with fresh commodities or you are dealing with commodities that has to be dried. In other words, they have very low moisture content before you store them. So I will speak a little about the technologies that we have for preserving fruits and vegetables. At the homestead level, at a very small scale level, we have technologies that rely on the principle of evaporation, and we call them evaporative coolers. In other words, if you are able to have a medium whereby you can actually exchange heat from the air, it's going to take away the respiratory heat from the produce, and by that is going to provide cooling. An example is the pot in pot. You have a pot outside, you have a smaller one inside. Those of us that are old, you are familiar with the old system where our grandmothers, they have water in that pot. You have a sand surrounding it. They keep that sand wet, and you can go there every time to get cold water. It's the same way this operates. You put your fruit inside the inner pot, and your fruit can last for 7 to 14 days, depending on the areas you are working with in Nigeria. Apart from that, the larger versions are also available. Now, apart from that, we will also have another technology that is called the charcoal cooling. It operates on the same principle of ECS. What you have is that you have charcoal inside Asian bag, which is the jute bag. In as much as that bag is moistened, whatever you have inside is actually preserved. Again, that will only take you to 7 to 10 days. But when it comes to a system that you can actually use at a retail level or market level, we have what we call the solar power cold storage technology. Interestingly, it's one of the posters we are presenting at the back there. The unique feature of this is the fact that you are not actually using the solar energy directly to cool your produce. You're actually using it to cool water. You are turning the water to ice. And by so doing, with the head of a water pump and heat exchanger, you can actually supply cool air into the storage chamber, and your produce can last as long as you want it to be there. The unique feature is the fact that you have a water storage unit, which is serving as a thermal storage unit. So in the days when the weather is very bad, you have a lot of cloud cover, it means that you won't be able to generate enough solar energy. But because you have ice, that will serve as a backup, and in that case, you don't need a lot of batteries to do that. On the angle of protecting grains, we have technologies that we call non-chemical storage technologies, because it's one of the things that we preach. Because our farmers, grain merchants have abused the use of chemicals, we are trying to see how we can move away from that. And one of the things we do is the use of hermetic storage technologies, like the PIGS bag. Some of you are familiar with the Purdue Improved Crop Storage system. They use PIGS bags. How does the technology work? You are only storing your commodity under a low oxygen content environment. When you do
Dr.
that,
Mike, you have 2 minutes, please.
so when you do that, you are able to preserve your grains. And you want to ask me, what happens? If the grain is infested, the problem is that some of them will still use the oxygen to survive and develop. And that is why you have holes in your grain. To move away from that, we have what we call the inert atmosphere silo, which is a silo that uses nitrogen for control of insects. In that unit, you don't have survival of any stage of insect. With that, we have been able to preserve grains, and these technologies are available to be used across the country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. Thank you so much. So Dr. Mike, walked us through the establishment of the Institute arising from the necessity to preserve food. And then he's presented to us different technologies that the Institute is developing to help to mitigate this problem. And interestingly, the Institute is also already looking at renewable energy because he talked about a cooling system that's using solar panels to cool water that is helping to cool the storage. So I want to encourage everyone here, if you have more questions for Dr. Mike about this technology, not to hesitate to contact them. This subject is something that's very close to the heart of the Executive Director, and is really pushing to see how we can try to improve and reduce the post-harvest waste. So over to you.
Thank you very much. I want to let us know, distinguished colleagues, that manufacturing is usually the first step in mechanization. And without manufacturing of agricultural machinery, mechanization is most likely to be a mirage. And someone is here all the way from Liberia to talk to us about agricultural manufacturing for enhanced productivity and efficiency. I'm talking of no other person other than the president of the Engineering Society of Liberia, Engineer Daldi D. To. Please, can we put our hands together for him as he talks to us about agricultural manufacturing as it applies to the Republic of Liberia. You're welcome, Engineer.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure having me to speak on this topic. The topic I'm going to talk to you is on agricultural manufacturing for enhanced productivity. I want to ask a question. Is it possible that we achieve the Sustainable Development Goal by 2030? Most likely the answer is no. Then I'll come back to you to ask you the question, why? As Africans, where are we heading? It means we have a problem, and the problem can be solved by ourselves. The most brilliant engineers in the world are sitting in this hall today. The need for agricultural missionaries is not an issue that has been discussed today. It has been discussed from age back. But have we solved the problem as Africans? Have we solved the problems as Nigerians? Have we solved the problem as Liberians? No. We have not solved the problem. Is it needed? Yes. It's needed because it's improved productivity. It's needed because it's improved efficiency. It increased productivity. But what has been the problem in Africa, in Liberia, in Nigeria as a whole? We have not taken the right step to ensure that we yield our productivity. Decision makers, policy makers, we import the missionaries from China. Is it sustainable? No. Is it innovative? No. Do we have mechanical engineers in the hall? Yes, we do. Do we have electrical engineers in the hall? Yes, we do. What are the solutions? The solutions left with you and I being innovative, being able to ensure that our missionaries we use in Nigeria, we use in Africa, are produced here. If you import the missionaries, what is going to happen? That most likely, after 1 year, after 2 years, it's going to damage. We need to ensure that our educational sector links up with the practical agriculture people to produce missionary that will be used in Africa to produce the food we need. If we don't produce our missionary in Africa, if we don't come together, bring the practice along with the theory from the classroom, we are going nowhere with agriculture in Africa. We can talk the talk, we can make up the promises, but we need to ensure that going forward, all missionaries are produced in Africa. The missionaries used here are produced in Nigeria because I think we have the best brains that can do it here. There's something the Prof said I want to throw back on. Linking the energy with the missionaries is very important as we go forward. We are not going to change it about agriculture, and we cannot continue relying on the West to feed us. We have the soil, we have the technicians. All we need is a rightful policy. All we need is being very ethical in ensuring that we move agriculture to the next level. Africa can feed herself. Nigeria can feed herself and feed the rest of the world. But our decisions, our policies on the type of machinery we use is very important going forward. As we said today, we should not only leave from here after this conference with all the talks, but we should leave from here making the rightful decisions that will enhance agriculture in Africa. This is a time, Nigeria. This is a time, Africa. This is a time every one of us here must make decisions, not because of ourselves, but because of our generation to come. That the missionaries that we are talking about are produced here. And if we work on bridging the gap between the classroom and using our engineers here, we can produce all the missionaries here. I just want to end and say this one thing. It is left with us. The West cannot change our continent. It is ourselves. If we gather together, work together in unity, in wholesome, moving together with ethical principle, our nation, Nigeria, our continent, Africa, and the nation, our world, can come back to Africa. I believe Africa should be the next superpower. But a decision you make today, a decision we take today in our offices is important as we move forward. Machineries for agriculture is very important as we lead to productivity and efficiency. Thank you.
I want another round of applause for Engineer To, who has actually challenged us as Nigerian engineers to rise up and solve Nigerian problems, and by extension, African problems. He actually advocated the reason, the charge that the solution lies within us. It lies with us, it lies with you and me. And that to a large extent, Liberia depends on the machinery that are coming from Nigeria. And that it's important for us to start manufacturing rather than importing, because the solution and the food security of Liberia largely depends on what Nigerian engineers are doing, right from Nigeria to the West African subcontinent, and by extension, the African continent. He also acknowledged the intelligence of Nigerian engineers in solving African problems, and that we can actually feed the world Now, if you are familiar with Agenda 2063, the Africa we need, this is one of the cardinal points in that document. And it is now time to walk the talk. Let us stop the talk. Let us walk the talk. Let's come together to solve the problem and solve the problem of food insecurity. Once again, the presentation of Engineer Doe is truly inspiring and challenging. Can we please, once again, put our hands together for him for that presentation? I don't know. Okay.
Please, section 2 of poster presentation, you are asked to come and pin your posters, please. If you are in the hall, go for your poster presentation, section 2.
Thank you. All right. I don't know if Managing Director, CEO of Bank of Agriculture is around or is going to present online, or Engineer Dele Abioye, Managing Director of Boa Foods. Are they available? They are not. Okay. In that case, we want to round up this session. We want to thank you so very much for your attention. I think we've been inspired, and I want to believe we'll be challenged. And I'm sure that what we do today, somebody once told me that choices have consequences, that we're a product of our decisions. And the decision we take today will determine the consequences that we live with in future. I want to thank everybody for this opportunity. Thank most sincerely our President, Engineer Margaret Okutala, for bringing this together to a place like this where we can challenge ourselves and solve the problems of food insecurity. And I want to believe that this time next year, when we come together, this will have been a thing of the past, and we'll be talking about another solution to another challenge that is bedeviling Nigeria. Thank you so very much. On behalf of my colleague, give a parting shot.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for, being here and listening to all of this discussion with us. We're really sorry that we don't have enough time to take your questions. But as I said, please do not hesitate to reach out to the panelists to get more information from them on the technologies they talked about and to rise to the question and the challenges they've given to us. So thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you, distinguished guests. And please, a round of applause to everyone on the panel.
And the panelists,
yes,
Engineer Dr. Kama, Dr. Michael Modara, and of course, Engineer too. Thank you so very much for bringing to bear your wealth of experience. Can we please put our hands together for everybody? Thank you.
A round of applause for Madam President as he appreciates the panelists. Clap for Madam President, please.
As I was coming up, somebody asked me a question. He asked me, how many times am I going to come up today? And for asking me that question, because I'm the president and I have the power to do so, I'm going to invite Engineer Ehi Joseph Sunday Ujama, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, Chairman Board of Trustees of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, to present the appreciation plaques to these gentlemen and precious lady. Please give him a round of applause as he comes here. Engineer Dudley Toe. I have here Engineer Professor Christopher Akinbile. Engineer Florence Ilaka, FNSE. Engineer Kamaldeen.
MC can come and take over now. Engineer Ejika should come up and take over. Thank you for your time for this section of technical. See you again tomorrow. Thank you.